Good afternoon. Happy Savage Saturday, keepers of the cash. Gonna be the Casual Comic Guy here, and we are here with Savage Saturday Comic Review, episode 84. Still going strong, still here for all you Savage fans, whether that's Conan, Solomon Kane, Red Sonja, or any assortment of varied characters it could be. As long as they have a Savage theme, even if it's Savage Horror, you'll see it on this show at some point or time, and hopefully it's something you enjoy. But without further ado, this week's episode, full spoilers as always, as we go through the story page by page and show you guys the goodness that is a story from the past that I think deserves to be highlighted. And today, we are talking about a story that is drawn by one of my all-time favorite Conan artists. Of course, adapted by Roy Thomas, one of my all-time favorite, all-time favorite, bar none, comic book writers. And we are talking about Roy Thomas, of course, and cover art, The Savage Sword of Conan, the Barbarian, Dark Eyes of Death, issue 35, which was still $1 back in 1978. All new and all Savage. And look at this Ernie Chan cover, which he did as he signed it in 1977. What a beauty. The painting, the colors, there's a little bit of horror, a little bit of savagery. Just a lot going on. Absolutely gorgeous cover. But let's get into the story. All right, so to start out, it's called Black Tears, and it's an adaptation from a story by L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter. And featuring, of course, the hero created by Robert E. Howard, and this is adapted by Roy Thomas, art and inks by Ernie Chan for this Conan tale, and it is glorious. And as our tale starts, the noonday sun blazes down, baking the harsh, dry sands of Shan El Borg. The Red Waste, as if in a giant oven. So the Red Waste is what this part of the desert is called. That's its nickname. And they're saying nothing moves in the still air. A few thorny shrubs that crown these low, gravel-strewn hills at the edge of the waste stir not. Neither do the soldiers who crowd there watching the trail. And you got this commander there named Bolger Khan, and they have their lookout Shamiro out at a dune, and he's doing his forward scouting. He's looking for the party that these guys are waiting for, the ambush. And Bolger Khan is saying, hey, we must stay here. This is the perfect spot for an ambush by Taram, swearing by his god. We'll give you the opening page and shot. And what a great detailed spread by Ernie Chan there. Again, always one of the premier inkers in the game at that time, but also an absolutely knocking it out of the park artist. How beautiful is that? So we turn the page, and he's just getting impatient. He's saying how proud he is to serve King Yezdegard in this matter. And he goes, but it's hot as Kushite hell in here. And they're there on a mission, and they want to take care of the Zugirs who have been raiding their convoys, their wagons, and they paid someone to betray the Zugirs. And they finally see them coming. The scout's there. He shines a mirror. They catch it. He goes, it's them. They're coming. He has the ambush set up. The guys are set there with arrows. And you see this great cloud of dust. The Zugirs are on the way. And for years now, the Outland Band has harried and looted cities and caravan stations along the borders of Tehran. First under that black-hearted Zaporozhian rogue, Ogerd Vladislav, which you guys will know from Savage Sword of Conan episode 5, who is the guy that Conan ended up taking over the Zagirs from after he got Conan to safety when he was on the now famous cover of Which Shall Be Born, with Conan strapped up in the desert on the tree to die. Him and Conan ended up not seeing ways. Conan overtook. And so now the Zugirs have just passed the rock where the scout was. He's hiding, and it's on. A hail of arrows is loose, but before we get to that, let's take a few looks. And again, it's such a wonder to me that Ernie Chan inked so many people when he was an equally fantastic artist, and we really should have seen much more work from him in the art-wise, even though we saw tons between Marvel and DC and otherwise. Ernie Chan, in my opinion, one of the premier talents. So the arrows are loose, and it kicks up so much dust with everything that's going on. You got people dying and falling with their horses. He can't see the dust. And Bulger Khan's like, Archer's halt. I can't see a thing through that murk, and neither can you. But that halt was a mistake, because emerging through the sand and yelling up the slopes of Nethen is none other than Conan the Barbarian leading the Zugirs to fight the people that were just slaying them with arrows. He's already lost a bunch of his Zugir army, but that's not going to stop him. And once up there, Conan and the Zugirs murder them to a person, except for Bulger Khan. And Conan has a conversation with him. You know, so Bulger, we meet again. And Bulger's like, what? Who? And he can't believe it's Conan. He heard the name Conan, but he didn't think it was the same Conan. Not that you've ever met any other Conans in these books. He goes, hey, Bulger, I can see you never expected that Conan you met a decade ago when you were the merry young scion of a noble house and a mercenary, and I am mercenary in a Trinian service with the same Conan who's been a war chieftain of the Zugirs for well over a year now. And he's like, I knew the name was the same, but how could I have ever imagined? And he thought Conan was dead. He's like, dead, eh? I've been near death 100 times, and not just 10 years ago either. He goes, and perhaps you heard the rumors. So Conan recounts a tale from Savage Sword of Conan 9, where he became under the thrall of a cat goddess and ended up becoming leader of the Zugirs again. Once he was able to escape its thrall, which made him a heartless, bloodless leader, and it got taken up by the then leader of the Zugirs, who Conan had to take out and become their ruler again. Now, after recounting this tale, Conan's like, now to immediate matters. How much did you pay Vardanes? And he's like, 200 silver shekels, but how do you know it was he? He goes, don't berate yourself, Bulger. You did not betray the traitor. Why else would he have asked to be advanced scout all of a sudden? A guy that was never an advanced scout before gave away his own hand at being a traitor. And Conan's, and Bulger Khan's in charge. He's like, you'll let me live? He goes, and Conan's like, why not? I still owe you a bag of gold from an old wager, or had you forgotten? But next time, Bulger, have a care how you set your trap for wolves. Sometimes you catch a tiger instead. So far in this story is good. It feels like a Conan tale. Now, with Elsbrock de Camp and Linwood Carter writing Conan, their tales, although their hearts were in the best places and they loved the character, they were hit or miss. Some read really well. Others read like they kind of missed the boat a little on exactly who the character is, doing out-of-character things. This one stays really on point with Conan, and I think is one of their better Conan tales. And the adaptation shows that as well. So Conan and the Zugir set out. They are going to find the traitor. And Conan says, keep moving, dog brothers. Our code demands the death of 5 stakes for the man who betrays his comrades. No one rests till the Zamoran pays that price. Now, they've been trekking in the desert. Vardanes is on the run. He had a fresh horse, and he's leading them on a chase. He goes, evening on the second day, they settle. And one of the Zugirs approaches Conan. He goes, Conan, a word with you? And Conan's like, well, Gomer, does Vardanes still make a straight path to the southwest? He's like, hey, the black-hearted devil must be in iron now. Must be made of iron. And he's like, he's got something to tell Conan. And Conan's like, speak up, man, out with it. And, you know, Gomer tells him, Conan, this is the Makan-e-Morden. And Conan's like, I know the place. I know it's the place of ghosts. He goes, are you afraid of old crones' fables? And Conan doesn't have a respect for the haunts and the beliefs of the Zugirs there. And he's like, look, all these, and Gomer, the other guy who's representing the rest of the Zugirs, like, they're all frightened to a man. They're terrified to be here. And Conan's like, tell your comrades to beware, Gomer. My wrath is stronger than all the ghosts that ever died. And he tells Gomer to forget it, stop quaking, like a child, and come join him in some wine. And you can see that Gomer, he's a decent fellow. He's trying to reason with Conan. Conan's headstrong, and all he can see in his future is the sworn revenge. He's given his word of revenge on this guy. So they go, and you get a quick recounting of when Conan was on the cross in the desert, and Olgred had saved him, and then him and Conan ended up fighting, and he got slain. But Conan's sitting down with wine, but before they sit down to have wine, Gomer pulls out a file that's full of something, and Conan doesn't see it, but he fills his wine bottle up with it. Now, when Conan awakes in the morning, he's alone, no horse, no provisions except 2 skins of water they left him, and they've all abandoned him out of their fright for the area. Their fear of the haunts there were greater than their fear of Conan, and they are all gone, leaving Conan abandoned. And Conan is feeling much the fool, because they could have killed him. They did not, but this could be his death. And because his head's still throbbing, Conan longs to upend the water bag over it. Reason prevails. He knows he's got to ration out this water over a few days' time, or else he's dead. So he sets out, marches until his body is aching and he can go no more. Night starts to settle and Conan collapses. He's having dreams of red hot chains whipping him, but that's just the sting of the desert affecting his dreams. And when he wakes up in the morning, he's drained 1 water skin and he's setting foot out with not much else to go on. And things are not looking good for Conan. So as you can see, some great art. Great panel up there with the chains. Ernie Chan just absolutely killing it. And then we cut to the trader. All right, now we've seen Vardanes of Zamora. He's on the run. His horse can no longer carry his weight, so he's leading the horse by the reins. And he's desperate now. He knows Conan is still pursuing him. He's fearful for his life. He's like, the goal's not doing me any good now. If they catch me, I'll be dead. I won't be able to spend it. And just when he's about to give up hope, he gets over a crest in the dunes, and he sees a city full of lush life. There's greenery around it, really out of place in the desert, and he sets out for the city. And he says he kind of remembers it. He goes, and yet he remembers something from his youth. A youth spent with a Shemite tutor who kept a weird, ancient-looking Stygian book which Vardanes managed to peruse one lone night. The lad had made out a reference to devil-haunted Aklat and the Red Waste, where power-mad sorcerers of yore called down a demon from beyond to their unending sorrow. And this is the city in that fabled book where he has happened to cross. And then once we turn the page, we're back to Conan. And Conan's waking up in a strange place. He's no longer in the hot desert where he probably would have died. He's now surrounded by silks. He's laying down. His body's been washed. There's a flagon of water next to him, which he quaffs. And then a young woman enters. And Conan draws steel, not knowing who it is at first. And she's like, "Ooh, you are too weak to stand." He's like, I recognize your dialect, girl. A quaint offshoot of the Shemitish. Don't worry, I'm fit enough. And who are you? And so she introduces herself. He's like, "Was it you who brought me here? And how long since you found me?" She's like, "It was my father who found you, strange lord, though I did tend you. Her name is Zilla. She's the daughter of Enosh, lord of the Aklat the Cursed." And that's what they call the region that they inhabit. There's a curse there that doesn't allow them to leave, so they're all stuck there until eventually they will die, or they find some way for generation after generation to survive in this harsh climate. So Conan, she goes, "I see you look puzzled, perhaps fearing you are among enemies. We mean you no harm. Just follow me, sir, and my sire will explain all things to you. And Conan's like, hey, yeah, it's good enough, but my sword comes with me. And take me to this Enosh last, I would hear his tale. And once there, Conan sits down with her father, Enosh, and you can just see, look at the beautiful lines by Ernie Chan. The women he drew were just as beautiful as those drawn by John Buscema. Both of those guys, just absolutely incredible. And Enosh is like, greetings, stranger. You're most welcome here in Everlasting Sands. You do great honor in the house of Enosh. And he goes, Conan's being a little bit impatient. He goes, my thanks. How did you find me? And Enosh tells him he found him through an ebon mirror, that although he himself is not a sorcerer, he has learned a few tricks along the way. They brought Conan there to be cleaned up. He goes, my story, however, will seem perhaps impossible to one who has never encountered wizardry before. And Conan says, well, it's likely I'll believe it then. I've met my fair share of wizards and encountered my fair share of sorcery. He goes, well, so much the better. And again, we'll show you one more time before we turn the page. And they are off and about with the tale. So his daughter comes in, gives them wine, and Enosh tells Conan of a tale of a young wizard that wanted to overthrow a king. He got the support of the people, and once that king was overthrown and murdered, the wizard himself called down a queen, a demon, to help him rule the land and give them a queen to idolize. But this demon decided she wanted the power for herself and ended up killing the wizard and taking the rule for herself. So she banished him, which you'll see here, and she took over, which is on this page, the banishing and the killing of the wizard. And you can see her here. Now, he said she was great of beauty. He goes, but for the sorcerer lost control of the demonic thing that he had summoned from beyond, and when he confronted it last, it destroyed him and ruled in his place. And it rules to this very day, Enosh tells him. For the goddess thing is immortal, and the secret of her power is that she steals the life force from living creatures. And all this land about us was once green and fair, but her vampiric thirst has drained everything dry except for the valley wherein the city of Aklat stands. There she is spared, for she must feed daily, and without living things that drain the dry, lifeless husk, she cannot sustain herself on this plane of being. And Conan's like, Crom, why have you not fled or slain her? And Enoch's like, she's invulnerable, and her power holds us here. So her curse is holding all in that valley, including Conan, who has now crossed into it, unaware that he cannot leave. And he goes, because of an ancient prophecy recorded in the scroll I was rereading when you arrived, there are a few of us left alive. And Conan's like, well, where do I fit in? He's like, it is written that in the fullness of time, when the end is near, the unknown gods would relent of their wrath and send a liberator who would overthrow the goddess and destroy her evil power. And Enosh points at Conan dramatically. He's like, you, Conan, you are that liberator. And Conan is just holy Ishtar, because he is a little bit in disbelief. So you see, so far, a really great Conan story. And then we head back to a dungeon cell where Vardanes has been captured and is sitting, and they're feeding him well. He's given lots of food, lots of drink, and he can't believe it. He thinks he's being fattened up for a slaughter, but at the same time, he needs the food, he needs the drink, he's bathing. He's just taking advantage of what's available at the time until an opportunity presents itself. And then they take him from his cell, and now, at long last, the guards come and bring him forth as new confidence wells up within Vardanes. And this is where he gets a little cocky, not really realizing the situation he's in. He's like, you'll see, dogs. I'll soon be ruling the roost around here. You're taking me to some magistrate or other, I'll wager, and I've never known a judge or mayor whose goodwill couldn't be purchased with what I've got to offer. So they open this big door, they push him in, and then they shut it behind them. And again, just showing you these fantastic panels. Set up so well, paced so well, the story going great. And now that Vardanes is in here, he sees like a dark hall, and then he sees all these grotesqueries, all these statues of men, and they're all frozen in different poses. Their bodies all are different, except for the terror on each of their faces is what they all hold a resemblance in, right? They're all terrified. And then he sees a great throne up there, and he sees a mummified woman up there wearing a golden mask, a bejeweled mask, and he's looking at it, it's like the shriveled mummy of some long dead queen. Its clothes are old, rotted away, nearly turned to dust, but its face, oh holy Mitra, that mask, it looks to be made of beaten gold, worked in the likeness of a woman of an earthly beauty. So he goes up there to grab the mask. He sees the giant jewel. The mask's eyes are closed as if in slumber. How fitting to take the mask then from a sleeping corpse. And we all know what's going to happen, right? But a couple great pages. He takes the mask off, and there is not beauty beneath the mask. So once he gets the mask off, he's feeling something ominous. He sees the withered face there. And all of a sudden the eyes snap open. And then a third eye snaps open above her regular eyes. And once that happens, the tale takes us back to Conan. But let's just look at those panels by Ernie Chan right there, setting up what's going to happen. I mean, there's some great horror right there. I mean, look at the expression. Absolutely fantastic. So it goes, but at that same moment, and Conan's just outside, breaking into the city with Enosh. Like, how did I ever let you talk me into this, Enosh? And Enosh is just being truthful with Conan. He's like, what choice have you, Outlander, but to be our liberator and your own? Black magic holds you in this land as it does us until and unless the goddess is slain. He goes, besides, it said the man you came here seeking is imprisoned here. That means he'll soon face the doom which is about to destroy the last of our race. And Conan's like, thanks for reminding me. None but my hand shall slay the Zamoran turncoat. So Conan enters. He's crawling through the tunnels. He's getting inside. And once in there, he hears a cry like, help me. Oh, Mitra, help. And, okay, and he sees the eyes of someone that's not fully dead yet. It's, please help me, I pray you. And Conan goes running back into the chamber where people are dying. And that's when he spies the Zamoran Valdares, Vardanes. And he's reeling right now, away from the woman. And Conan passed other people that were slowly being petrified as their life force is drained and they're turned to stone. And the same is starting to happen to Vardanes. Conan is seeing that. It's starting at his feet. It's heading up his body. At the same time, as he's turning to stone, you see the demon there regaining her youth with his life essence. Conan sees what's happening, and whether it's out of mercy or the fact that he's sworn to kill himself, Conan springs forth and lobs off Vardane's head before his head is turned to stone. And then he's left face to face with the rejuvenated queen, who is now like this ethereal beauty before him. And instinctively he looks up, and he's caught in the thrall of the third eye above her head. Now, it's sending Conan reeling through this like mindscape, and he knows that if he doesn't turn his gaze away, he'll be lost forever. He finally breaks the spell a little bit, and he sees the mask on the ground in front of him with the jewel there, and it's sparkling. And, Conan says, he makes a terrible effort of will, muscles writhing like serpents beneath his bronze skin. And then he hears the goddess laugh, a low, melodious sound with cold, cruel mockery in it. Rage rising within him, he manages to tear his eyes from the awesome black one. That's her third eye, is a black eye, to stare at the floor and at the thin golden mask where its huge gems set to represent the third eye. And suddenly Conan knows what he must do. This time, as his glance rises, He does not forget his sword, and as he rises, Conan slashes upward and cuts the black eye on her forehead in half, sending her reeling and dying on the steps. And once that eye is cut, all the souls that she's ever lived off escape, and all her eons of youth are gone. Every soul she sucked dry to retain her beauty, and she ages for the decades and decades and eons that she's been alive, and is finally turned to dust. And Conan leaves triumphant through this macabre setting of people turned to stone. She was like half vampire, half Medusa, and just draining. Now, once he leaves, he is saying his goodbyes to Enosh and Ilya, and they're telling him that he has a place in their town, and Conan says, a place of this, like this, a peace has no place for a soldier like him. And of course, you see a few tears from Ilya, oh my gosh, from Ilyath, who was hoping that Conan would stay behind and with them. And Conan sets off for further adventures. So, really a spectacular tale from beginning to end. Lots of little twists and turns from Conan being in desperate straits right away from an ambush to him conquering and then being overconfident, suffering the stakes of being overconfident and being too disrespectful of a leader to his band, and trying to force them into a place that they were fearful of being through their ancestry, and paid the price for that overconfidence, and in the end is able to still overcome and then go on to the next adventure. Great adaptation by Roy Thomas from one of the better tales from El Sprach de Camp and Lin Carter. A++ art all around by Ernie Chan, who did the art and the inking, and from beginning to conclusion, just a fantastic Conan tale. Nothing but A+ all around. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of episode 84 of Savage Saturday Comic Review, and until next time, keep it casual. Attention all, use channel sponsor Rogue Trader at theroguetraderutah.com and my code Keep It Casual for 10% off your comic cleaning and pressing needs. Remember, when submitting your books to be graded, use a trusted professional.